Ren Baker's under fire, man. People are coming at him left and right on social media. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up? Welcome in, guys. My name is Mountaineer Paul, your host. Thank you for joining me here on Locked On West Virginia, brought to you by none other than Game Time, guys. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. And I would like to thank you for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen every single day, and for being part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we talk about your team every single day. What's up, Golf? What's up, him? What's up, Pokemon? Everybody that's in here on YouTube. Those of you listening on podcast, thank you for joining. I actually just uploaded a new intro to the podcast today. Don't know when that'll go up, but it's a pretty good one. So hopefully you enjoy that whenever you start clicking on these now. So, okay, let's build this from the bottom up, from the ground up here, and just talk about the why, and then we'll get into the what. So here's why people are angry. West Virginia football adds a pair of neutral site games versus Virginia. West Virginia University football adds 3 non-conference games to future schedules. West Virginia University President and Director of Athletics, Ren Baker, announced Wednesday afternoon that Mountaineer football program has added 2 additional neutral site games against the Virginia Cavaliers in Charlotte, North Carolina at Bank of America Stadium on September 9th, 2026, and again on September 4th, 2032. The Charlotte region has a huge amount of WVU alumni, and adding these 2 games allows us to further engage our fans in the region while putting a quality ACC regional opponent on our schedule. Our players get to play in a great NFL stadium, and working with Charlotte Sports Foundation over the years has proved to be a great relationship. We are thrilled to host the Cavaliers and Mountaineers in 26 and 32, said Charlotte Sports Foundation Executive Director Danny Morrison. We can't wait to roll out the red carpet for 2 more great fan bases and welcome them to the Queen City. In adding these 2 games against Virginia, West Virginia has notified East Carolina that will use the cancellation clause in the contract with the Pirates to cancel the previously scheduled September 19, 2026 game in Greenville. In today's ever-changing landscape of college athletics, the financial aspect of adding these 2 games in Charlotte is far too important for us to pass up, Baker added. Aside from all the positives of playing a neutral site game in Charlotte, we have a fiscal responsibility to our future, and adding these 2 games makes strong financial sense for the department. We've had a positive and constructive conversations with our colleagues at East Carolina, and we've committed to helping and working with them to find a replacement for a home game in 26. Baker also announced that the Mountaineers have added a non-conference home game against Robert Morris on September 15, 2029. The game with Robert Morris is in addition to the non-conference matchup against the Colonials next season, which was previously announced. West Virginia already has in place the game against the Tennessee Volunteers in Charlotte. So here's what people are upset about. Ren Baker has been pretty open about, hey, look, we need to get, and also obviously Neal Brown has been saying 11 Power 5 games not ideal on any schedule. We've heard it for years, and I think a lot of people are looking at this and saying, wait a second, you're removing a group of 5 team and adding another Power 4 to the schedule that starts with Alabama. That's hypocritical. That's how some people feel. I'm not saying I'm in that camp, but I am going to try to explain what others do feel, and I'm going to go to X to do that. Let me go to the page that I've seen some of the most conversation happening here. Let's see. All right, let's go here. I'm going to share a screen with you guys. Stay tuned. And for those of you listening on podcast, just listen along here. We are on Mike Ostie's page from West Virginia Sports Now. Guys, that I use a lot of his work. I have respect for Mike. I know a lot of people. He can be divisive at times. He has strong opinions. But at the end of the day, man, This is how he feels. He says, my reactions to WVU scheduling a neutral site series with Virginia. Number one, I fully expect West Virginia to find a way out of the Alabama game, even if it's due to being voided because of SEC changes. But if WVU does end up playing Alabama still and has 11 Power 4 games in 2026, Ren Baker is a hypocrite. That's really strong words. And I say that as someone who likes him and has publicly supported him from the beginning. He has been way too outspoken about the schedule, oftentimes unprompted, to turn around and do exactly what he said he would not do, and most of the country is still not doing. WVU versus Virginia in Charlotte will be cool, and Virginia is beatable. Power 4 non-conference opponent is a beatable Power 4 opponent. Scheduling this series with Virginia is not the same as starting seasons on the road against rivals or scheduling Penn State. Oh, man. And then people go on to say calling Wren a hypocrite is a bit strong. His comments about playing 2 Power 4 games were made prior to the college football landscape changing. That's a good point. Wren made those comments a billion times, and money was still an issue at the time. The poor schools who are winning are doing it partly because their schedules are easier. People act like WVU is the only school with financial issues, and it goes on and on from there. So I'm not going to read their entire conversation, but I do feel like it was, for context, the reason I decided to do this episode was a lot to do with that conversation and others I've seen. Mike Casaza is on there talking about these are people in the West Virginia space, the closest to the West Virginia space, having differing opinions in this and about this. So I think the biggest thing for me is Ren Baker has said from the beginning, what was the number one reason he was brought here? Does anybody remember? Because it was to make money for the university. That's the reason. That was before anything else. Like, that's the number one reason Ren Baker was brought here, because he's good at that stuff. It's what he does. He finds money where there's no money. And I don't think you can criticize him for doing what he was brought here to do. He was brought here to do that, period, point blank. He just wrote a letter explaining our situation a week and a half ago. And he's making other decisions like firing he didn't make this decision, but it's partly, I'm sure they worked together, even though technically they say it's on Neal. I think, you look at it like firing Jordan Leslie rather than jumping all the way to Neal Brown, whether people like it or not, if it works out, is a great money move, right? I'm not saying that I agree with that specific thing or not, because I do believe we need to move on from Neal. But I think Ren Baker is trying really hard to put us in a financially a good financial spot, and it's hard. Can you imagine being in his shoes? No matter what you do, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And Ren has been great in almost all aspects. You look at the Darren DeVries era, how his started off. You look at Don Plitzwhite, who he saw off and brought in Mark Kellogg, although that was a Shane Lyons hire. And Plitzwhite, I feel like that was handled really well, the way she went to Minnesota. And then the Mark Kellogg hire was 10 times better. And no matter what he does, it usually works out. So I'm going to trust Ren on this yet again. It added $2 million to both schools, not just us, to them. Because, look, people want pretty good games in their cities. Charlotte touches base for both West Virginia and Virginia. There's you could probably make it maybe a larger alumni base in Charlotte for West Virginia than Virginia. It's probably close. So I think it makes sense, man. And I would rather play Virginia than East Carolina just 2 years ago. 2 years ago, East Carolina went undefeated. East Carolina has been pesky to West Virginia at times. I'll never forget the name Patrick Pinckney because of East Carolina. So to me, man, it's one of those things like, if you lose to East Carolina, it's an upset. If you win what you were supposed to, let's move on to the next week. If you beat Virginia, you can't necessarily say that every single year. Now, we should be better than Virginia, but you never know in the portal era. They could be what Indiana this year by the time we get to 2026. Truly don't know. truly don't know. Like, it's not like it used to be where you can probably look out 2 or 3 years and say, yeah, it's going to be a few years for that program unless something major happens. So I think Wren is being harshly judged on this because he was brought here to make money. Some people are going to disagree with that and say, look, we've been talking about the 11 Power 5 games, Power 4, and I get both sides. But and the one point that Mike Osney made that I do see some validity in on this is teams are winning with easy schedules. You look at Indiana, you look at BYU, other teams, yes, it does help in this era of college football playoff when you just got to be one of the top 12 schools. But if you can just get to 8-0, you're pretty much in there. All you got to do is make sure you just go 2-2 down the stretch, right? You're pretty well in there. So I think that's what it comes down to, is mixing the best of all these worlds. And I think Virginia does that. It's a winnable game, and you make $2 million. I think it's a great job. I don't understand how people can criticize Wren for doing that. That's just my opinion. So that's where I stand on it, guys. I think at the end of the day, Ren Baker is doing everything he can to make money for us. And why would he do anything else? Up next on Locked On West Virginia, guys, the women's basketball team was off to a strong start. And guess what? I just talked to a 7'1" guy that is pretty dang interested in West Virginia. And boy, does he have the skills to pay the bills. Let's talk about both those things. This is Locked On West Virginia. This episode of Locked On West Virginia is brought to you by FanDuel, guys. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now, new customers can bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets, but that's if you win. FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, be the live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page you place your bets. Visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with 150 in bonus bets. But that's only if your first $5 bet hits. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment count. More with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the National Football League. This is also going to be brought to you by Hims Sexual Health for erectile dysfunction. Guys, sometimes intimate moments happen spontaneously, and we always want to be ready so we can perform in the bedroom. Hims provides access to treatments that can help you stay hard and last longer, giving you that boost of confidence that you can be ready whenever the mood strikes. And let's be honest, the mood does strike. Hims is changing men's health care by providing with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch or your bedroom or your bed or wherever you get down at. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That's hims.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/lockedon. The products mentioned are chewable compounded products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultant with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions do apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscriptions are required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. That was a mouthful. All right, guys. Women's basketball got off to a really strong start against Towson, man. And what about the addition of Sydney Shaw? I mean, she absolutely tore up 19 points in the game. If you didn't watch the game, I highly recommend going back and checking it out. This is going to be the best West Virginia women's basketball team possibly ever. Man, what a team. They look really good. It's the same backcourt as last year, obviously. And I am super proud of the way they've started off this year, guys. I really, really am. Just check out that box score really quick just to get over this part of the segment, and then we'll move on to the 7-footer. Kylie Blackson had 4 points in 16 minutes and 2 boards. Jordan Harrison had 23 points in an incredible effort, guys. I mean, just 8 assists, 2 rebounds. She's really rounded into one of the best guards in the country. Sydney Shaw, the transfer, 19 points. Kai Watson only had 2 points, but she'll get better. JJ Quinterly had her consistent 14 points, and she continues to be the leader. Sydney Woodley, Jordan Thomas, had 3 and 6 points. Zaya Nugent had 1 point in 11 minutes. And you go on down. Hey, my girl Destiny Agabadu, she had 2 points. We had her on the show. She played 7 minutes. I bet you that rises as the year goes on. But man, that starting five is going to be tough this year to stop. Really looking forward to watching these girls play. Man, I just think that at the end of the day, guys, they are so well coached. They remind me of the Press Virginia type days just a little bit. Okay, so I would love to say more, but they played Towson, so there's just not a lot you can gather from it. And I want to get to the 7-footer. So, man, guys, have you guys seen this kid yet? Let me get his name pulled up one more time. I know, and it's just it's hard to pronounce, and I have to see it on screen really quick too. Okay, Frederick Leo Curtis. So he's 7'1", 2025 Cats Academy in Boston. And listen, he's been offered everybody. Listen, literally everybody. I'm going to share the screen with you guys so you can see it. And for those of you on podcast, go to x.com or if you just have the X platform, the app on your phone, and look up FRIDRIKLEOCURTIS, Frederick Leo Curtis. He's from Iceland. He's only been in the States for a couple months, and he had an official visit at West Virginia over the weekend. He posted, had a good time on the official visit at West Virginia. Would like to thank Coach DeVries and the whole coaching staff for a great visit. I'll probably do an extra episode on this, but I am going to touch on this now. Look at the size of this kid. He absolutely dwarfs Darren DeVries, guys. Darren DeVries comes up to his shoulder, and Darren DeVries is like his son is 6'7". So you have to think Darren's at least 6'4", 6'5". This kid's a mammoth. And then I thought, well, that's pretty cool. Then I turned on the tape. And let's see if he's got anything here. Yep, he's got a couple things here. Watch this kid play ball. I'm telling you guys, if you're watching right now, get ready to be like, and look, he's projected to come here. And I've been having conversations with him. I'm just going to tell you, we've got a great shot. We've got Xavier, other guys like that coming after this kid. Let me turn off the volume just in case. This is a 7'1" big with guard skills that can run at the rim and shoot threes. This is exactly what Darren DeVries is looking for. And if the Ren Baker story wasn't happening right now, this is probably what I do an episode on. That's him with the ball. He's bringing it up the court off the rebound and then straight to the rim. Here he is. How about this? Up 3 ball. Here he is. And if you're listening on podcast, he just got out in passing lane, stole the ball. Now he's running down the floor and dunks it 3 feet over the rim. He goes. Here he is in the post, getting it thrown down. He goes, uses the rim as protection, goes up and under. Here he is. He catches the ball in the corner 3, pump fakes, and drives to the rim and gets fouled. This is a 7-footer. He has got a great pump fake. He just did it again and dunked on somebody. Now he's running the floor, dunk. This is a 7'1" kid. Did I mention that? Here's somebody saved it off the inbounds. He catches it during the scrum in the corner and plows a 3. Now he's backing somebody down, comes over the left shoulder and scores with his left hand. He is right-handed. So just to show you guys, this kid is an absolute beast. And he reminds me of Grant Nelson, who played at Alabama last year. I don't know how many of you guys remember him. He may even be back this year. But he's very similar to Grant Nelson. He's a guy that can shoot threes. He's a guy that can really run the floor. He's a guy that is just extremely long at 7'1". And you think about what a year in the weight room would do for him. Can you imagine? Imagine if you pack 30 pounds onto that frame or 40 pounds onto that frame. He's going to be 240 pounds. He's going to be like a Zach Edey type player. But in my opinion, more mobile than Zach Edey. Now, look, will he ever touch Zach Edey's heights? I'm not saying that. But he's got the frame. He's got the shot. He's got the athletic ability. I am extremely impressed with the kid. I mean, I really, really am. I think West Virginia's got a shot. And their future cast, he is future cast to West Virginia on Rivals. And I've spoken to him, like I said. I mean, I can prove it, but I can't. I got to quit doing that. I got to quit doing that because I get yelled at whenever I don't even know if I have his permission. So I just forget that I said that. But so because sometimes I'm like, I'll just show him the messages, but I can't. That's me going crazy. Let me get a drink. You guys know by now I'm not lying. Sometimes I always think, well, I'll just show him. So this has been a fun episode overall. I think what Michael says here, and if you're listening on podcasts, sometimes I do address the YouTube comments. He says, it's quite obvious to most people about the needs of money to the athletic department. Wren is doing what he has to do to keep making money for the athletics. $2 million versus the buyout of $300,000. Pretty much. And look, and you weigh that $300,000 against what Neal Brown's buyout would be. Neal wouldn't be the first coach to change staff, basically, like in the big spots and succeed. I don't like, if I'm looking at this, I truly believe this, and you guys have heard me. Nobody's been harder on Neal than me, but I can say this. I don't think he's far off. I think he's just missing a couple things from winning. His on the field coaching, like during games, I do think he makes bad decisions here and there, but every coach does. I don't think that's what loses him games. I think there's something in the day-to-day that they're not doing right, like from a developmental standpoint at a couple key spots. At receiver, and look, I'm not going to sit here and say that all wide receivers coach Bilal Marshall has had really enough time to develop anything. This is his second year. So I'm not going to say anything against him yet. Look at the talent he has in the room. I think it's getting better. So I think next year will be a prove-it year for him, because look what he had this year to really work with. One of the guys that was supposed to be our best wide receivers got hurt, and we haven't really been able to see in Jaden Bray. And you look at Hudson Clement and Preston Fox. Unfortunately, he's had a bad year. T. Ray is really the only receiver, in my opinion, that's been consistent pretty much the whole year. Cole Taylor's even kind of have been off, and a lot of that goes back to Garrett Green, right? Because he hasn't had the greatest year. So it's just overall, I think for what Neal's been able to do with the offense this year has been pretty impressive, considering everything that you can think of that's happened. Defensively, it was Jordan Leslie, right? The reason we were losing games, it was mostly Jordan Leslie, and Neal Brown was taking the brunt. Nobody wants to say that. Everybody wants to blame Neal. But let's be honest. If the defense was better, we probably, how many games better are we? I think you can make an argument for every game except for two. So there's 2 games extra we could have won due to better defense. Pitt and Iowa State. The other 2 that just we would have had no chance no matter what probably are Penn State and Kansas State, right? Although that was a game for a half. So, yeah. Well, the thing is, Timothy, somebody's asking about moving Garrett to another position. His career's over. So, I mean, maybe at the next level he can do a Julian Edelman and Edelnut, how about you go get my Gatorade? Like Randy Moss would tell him. Hey, Edelnut, go get me a Gatorade. But yeah, I mean, he could possibly be an Edelnut, but Edelman. But and I want him to be, but it would be. See, Julian Edelman played other positions in college at K-State. Or at wherever he played. It was at K-State, was it? He played kickoff return. He was on punt. He did other stuff. He was a quarterback because he was the best athlete. So I think it's tough to say, really. But up next on Locked On West Virginia, guys, let's put a bow on this episode. I went too long in that segment. Stick around. This is Locked On West Virginia. This episode of Locked On West Virginia is brought to you by Game Time, guys. That's right, it's game time. Game Time filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands and thousands and thousands of tickets. Curated deals make it easier to find the best price on great seats. Game Time Picks has the curation you love, guys. Save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and etc. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Game Time has what's called a lowest price guarantee, and they'll guarantee you credit of 110% of the difference if you're not satisfied or if you can find lower prices. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the app, create the account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, apply, create, and do the Locked On College, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today and ask yourself this, guys. What time is it? It's game time. And this episode is also brought to you by Prebiotics, Z-Biotics. Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by a PhD scientist to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct and not dehydration that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down, but you have to remember to make Z-Biotics your first drink of the night, then drink responsibly before you'll feel better tomorrow. Every single time, guys, make sure you, for the best results, step 1, drink pre-alcohol. Step 2, drink responsibly, hydrate yourself, and get a good night's sleep. And step 3, enjoy tomorrow, wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day. Go to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege to learn more and get 15% off your first order. Z-Biotics is backed with 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money. No questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege and use code LOCKEDONCollege at checkout for 15% off. All right, guys, let's recap really quick. So we began the show talking about Ren Baker being under fire for, let's say, criticisms of how he's handled the scheduling situation. Yes, he did remove a group of 5 team and replaced it with a Power 4 team. He did do that in Virginia for $2 million, though. Just saying. He did get $2 million to do. That's pretty good. He was brought here to do that. That's my case for Ren Baker in a nutshell. The women's basketball team absolutely destroyed Towson. It wasn't a game from the tip, similar to the Robert Morris game, although they just dominated all the way through. Robert Morris had a couple moments. And then, obviously, West Virginia basketball on the men's side really doing a great job. And on Curtis, the 7'1" guy that I was talking about that I had spoken to, and he's future cast the Mountaineers, and he has got incredible Grant Nelson-like skills. If you haven't checked out Curtis, the 7'1" guy, he visited over the weekend. Go back earlier in this show and check out when I talked about him. He'll give his full name and everything then. It's Frederick, like Fridrik, I think, Curtis. Frederick Leo Curtis. Just an excellent 7'1" big man that is a 2025 guy who I really think is going to be, if West Virginia lands him, he'll be a game changer for us. He's like, he's, because he come from Iceland, he's 3 stars. But if you turn on the tape, you can see if he lived in the States his whole life, he'd probably be 4 or 5 star player. I mean, just turn on the tape. He's 7'1". He runs the floor. He can shoot the 3. He can defend. There's nothing he can't do. So unless I'm either a really bad about talent evaluator, and I think I'm okay at that, or he's better than 3 stars. But that's just me. And then obviously that's it. That's what the show's about. I was thinking there was one other thing, but that's it. So just a couple other little quick things on Ren Baker. Just remember, guys, he's got a lot to deal with. Obviously, he's dealt with his whole negativity this year with Neal, everything to do with the way, the team hasn't been winning. And I think he understands that it's a crucial time for him in his career right now here at West Virginia. Let's not run the guy off. I mean, he's been great for us in almost every way. He let Raekwon Battle go to court in the middle of the season, guys, to to say, hey, this isn't right. There are a lot of athletic directors that would have shied away from that and not let them do that. I think, Ren Baker, when he deserves criticism, I'll justly dole it out. But I'm just not going to pile on because it's fun to be negative either. I'm not. I'd say the things about Neal that I do because I waited 6 years to do that. And I got hammered by a lot of people for not doing it sooner. So, look, at the end of the day, here's where it stands for me. Ren Baker has done an excellent job as athletic director at West Virginia. I don't see that changing. And yes, if Virginia is a powerful Power 4 team by the time we play them in 2026, I'll look back on this and say, hey, you know what, Ren Baker, you're right. Or you were wrong on this one. You made a big mistake. But for me, man, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think West Virginia most likely will be a better team than Virginia when we play them in 26. That'll show on the field. And we'll have $2 million in our pocket. And we've been able to expose ourselves further to a North Carolina area fan base that's pretty much, outside of the area we live, one of the largest bases there is for West Virginia athletics. So keep all that in mind, guys. And before you type something to Ren or at Ren, just remember, man, he understands the duality of it and how it can look a little hypocritical. It's not. He's not trying to be a hypocrite here, in my opinion. I think Mike was off on this critique, but that's just my opinion. So thank you guys for joining me on this episode of Locked On West Virginia. As always, love you cats, man. You guys really have helped grow this show. Look, we've grown to almost 1,000 subscribers, guys. Almost 1,000 subscribers on YouTube since we started this in October. So this has been a great run. We're almost at 3,000. If you can, share this thing out for me. There's 99 of you guys watching right now, some on X, some on YouTube. Do me a favor and click that share button and just share this out. If you care about me at all or this channel at all, if you're proud of it as a West Virginia fan, it would mean a lot to me personally to get over that 3,000 number. A big benchmark for me. So I want to thank you guys for just helping me grow like you have. I actually went to court for child support the other day. I want to tell this story before we get off here. I had to go to court for child support the other day, and the judge and the prosecutor, I went in there a little nervous because it's always nerve-wracking to be in front of a judge. And I left out of there with 2 subscriptions to Locked On West Virginia from the judge and the prosecutor. So things are going pretty well for us guys. Oh, I meant to tell that a little sooner, but man, what a funny story. I just know it's like the best case scenario, isn't it? So they're watching. So can't be much more proud than that. Other than that, guys, that's all I got. Thank you for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen every single day. If you could do me a big favor as well, outside of sharing this thing out, go to Locked On Big Ten and check those guys out, man. They do an excellent job over there as well. They really do. And I lost the read. Where'd it go? Uh-oh. Give me 1 second to pull that back up. All right. Locked On Big Ten. Yeah, thank you for making Locked On Big Ten. Craig Sherman puts the Big Ten first when everyone else overlooks it. Find Locked On Big Ten on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast, guys. All right, y'all. I'm out. Can't thank you enough. Go easy on Ren Baker, and I'll be back tomorrow on Locked On West Virginia as always.